If you're interested in what I look like in real life and want to learn more about me, then follow my Instagram page at Joe the Insomniak. Hope you're all doing great. My throat's in a bad way at the minute, so I can't really make as long videos right now, but my meds are kicking in and I'm starting to feel better. This is just a thought I had too the other day. I realised that when I have idle time, it's going to be out of my hands whether I feel good or bad during it because of depression. But, for example, if I had 2 months go past, I'd put my efforts into being productive and getting things done. So that way once they're over, I've actually achieved something in that time. Whereas if I let my depression take over, I won't do anything and I just waste time. Now it's just a small thing, but when I was in a bad way a couple years ago, I started learning French and it made me feel a lot better overall for doing so. So I really recommend that people just have that thought in mind. That you might not be in control of how you feel because of your depression, but you can be in control of what you do during the time you are. And knowing that you'll be bad sometimes means that you can plan in advance to make yourself feel better and do things. When I was younger, me and my friends used to play in a forest near the back of one of my friend's house. It was kind of like swampland. To be honest, it was pretty dangerous and we should never have been playing there in the first place, but we're kids and didn't really care. Now I remember one day we were playing hide and seek. 4 of my friends had run off to various locations. I was finding them. Now little did they know, I'd always climb up the tree stealthily and see every single one of them. But now it was my turn to hide, and hide I did. I went further than I've ever went before, walking for probably a couple of miles. I only realised later how far I'd gone. As I was hiding, I heard one of my friends laughing, saying, "You can come out now, we're gonna play a different game." I stayed quiet, smiling, thinking, they ain't seeing me here. I was under a board. It's very hard to see me. Then I heard someone shout saying, "We need to play something different now." My stomach drops as I realise this isn't my friends. This is the voice of a much older person, probably in their 50s or 60s. I keep hearing "come out now" and see a man with a stick. He looks to be in his 60s or 70s, clearly homeless, and he has a chain in his other hand. Now the 4 minutes I was waiting for him there were probably the biggest 4 minutes of my life, and probably saved me from something terrible happening. After I saw the coast was clear, I got up and sprinted back where I come from. I call out for my other friends but they can't hear me. I can now hear this maniacal laughter coming from where I ran from. He's closing on me. I quickly take an alternative route that's very hard to get through if you're big. Luckily where I was young I was small and I can get through the small vines and stuff. I eventually make it back, and I'm so scared I don't even tell my friends what's happened when I see them. I just say I need to go home, and I never went to play over there again. What terrifies me is knowing that I was miles away from anyone, covered by tree lines. That guy could have done God knows what to me in there, or kidnapped me, and I'd be absolutely helpless. I've never posted anything before, but this happened when I was around 15 years old in high school. I had a boyfriend at the time who lived a fairly short walk from the school, and we'd often walk over to his place after school to hang out for a bit before I went home. Because we took the same routes often, I knew all the houses and landmarks on the way. In January, my boyfriend and I started to notice a car that had been parked near the wood line in the same spot for a while. We didn't think anything of it for the meantime, thinking maybe the car's died and they can't afford to repair it. But as spring came and the snow melts, the car was still there, parked in the same spot at the end of my boyfriend's street. We passed it almost every day as we walked there after school. And as the days got warmer, a rotten stench come from the car. I joked to my boyfriend saying, I bet there's a body in there, and we laugh it off. But we're curious now, so one day we peer inside the car windows as we passed. The car was messy, but not filled with trash or food, and a discarded backpack lay across the seat. Papers were strewn there. It looked like an ordinary car, except we knew it hadn't moved for months and the smell was indescribable. The smell continues to get worse as spring turned to summer. One day, when I couldn't come over for some reason, my boyfriend and his dad decided to investigate the car. They found that the doors are unlocked and the keys are inside. Pretty strange. They went around the back and popped open the trunk. My boyfriend told me that a swarm of black flies come up. The smell was coming from the trunk. Inside is a bunch of black garbage bags. They then called the police. The cops told us that inside of those bags were rotten pieces of meat. The first pieces were tested and belonged to a pig. But a few weeks later, my boyfriend's dad got another call. It turns out there was actually a dead body under the pig meat. This took place a couple of years ago when I was still dating my ex. Him and his dad had adopted a Rottweiler/German Shepherd mix from the shelter. The dog was really aggressive towards strangers and other animals. It took a couple of months for him to warm up to me, but eventually we bonded and I would occasionally be cuddled up on the couch with him taking a nap. It got to the point where he would push people aside so he could lay with me. During the summer, my ex and me were house sitting for his dad who's on vacation with his girlfriend. My ex would usually be home to walk the dog, but this time he was at work and I had to walk the dog. We had ordered a special harness beforehand, hoping it would make him pull on his leash less. My ex and his dad didn't live in the safest of neighbourhoods, and it was getting dark out while I was getting into the woods to go on our walk. I let the dog run around by himself but kept his harness on. Since he was very aggressive towards other people and other dogs, I'd like to keep it on so I could call him to me as soon as I saw someone else and get him on the leash again. For this reason, I was also kind of on edge and looking around me the whole time. We weren't walking for too long when I saw a group of guys coming in front of me. They have hoods on, keeping their heads low, while clearly whispering to each other and nodding their heads towards me. I very quickly glance behind me, and I then see another group of guys coming from that side. I quickly realised it was dark out, and I was only 16, walking by myself in the woods. Now the dog had actually run off and couldn't really be seen in the dark. I quickly called him, and to my side, he appears. He pushed himself against my leg and starts growling at the guys. I told them just keep walking, or I'll get him to attack. Luckily the guys quickly went in the opposite direction and started jogging away. I'm so grateful to have had a dog that was actually obedient and hadn't run off. I know for a fact that something terrible would have happened if it weren't for that dog or that day. I'm 31 now, but was a teen when I was walking home on a sunny day through the woods. It was in winter, but had a nice cool breeze. I remembered holding a Tupperware in my hands that was still hot, containing pasta and broccoli my grandma had just made me. It was so cool living 1 block away from my grandma, because a quick 10-minute walk meant I got some really good leftovers. In between my house and her house was a patch of woods, but thorns and ticks prevented me from taking a shortcut through. I remembered looking down the sidewalk just as I reached the middle of the patch of woods to my right. I then hear someone say, "Hey, where you going?" I looked up and to my left, towards the road. I then see a thin man in a white van with his windows rolled down smiling at me. He was driving in the opposite direction to me. I simply said home, continuing to walk. He shouted, "Hey!" So I look back and see him hanging out of the window. "I'll give you a ride home, come here." I keep walking and say no loudly. I stopped and turned around when I heard him drive away. I began walking again, creeped out now, wishing that the woods didn't run so long next to the sidewalk. I remembered wishing I was home already. I was super alert now, hearing every critter in the brush to my right, as well as rustling leaves and things scurrying about. I pick up the pace, reminding myself that the woods are packed with lizards. I said to myself aloud, "It's just the silly lizards, don't worry." But I then hear a vehicle coming up behind me. Out of fear, I look back, and to my horror, it's the same white van with the same man smiling at me. The van slows down next to me, and a big angry guy flung the door open and jumped out. I turned to my right and began running as fast as I can into the woods. I was jumping over bushes and log vines, clenching my grandma's Tupperware for life. I looked back once, and the thick brush of the woods was slowing down the big guy. I've never been chased like this, and it's horrifying. It's very primitive when stuff like this happens. I knew just for going straight I'd reach my backyard by a chain link fence. I remember the thorns sticking in, but I can't feel the pain because of the adrenaline. I instead run. Once I reach the fence, I chuck the Tupperware and, hoisting myself over with my ripped jeans and faceplant on the ground with a loud thud, I ran to the porch and started begging and banging on the back door to be let in. My dad sees me panicking, covered in dirt and cuts, trying to open the back door. I felt safe to be back home with my dad and our Rottweilers. He sat me down and starts questioning me and calls the police. The cops arrived, only 2, and took a report. They said nothing looked like it happened in the area before. One even said that I was lying. I remember they left and my dad swore he believed me. I couldn't sleep in his room that night though if I wanted. I remembered feeling really sad and frustrated about not being believed and going to bed without even eating the pasta and broccoli. That would annoy me too. It was hard to sleep or go anywhere for months after. After that I was scared that the man was still out there and that there were more coming for me. My dad ended up getting me a cell phone and installing an alarm system to make me feel safe. I still have major trust issues because of it to this day. Me and my brother used to love playing in the woods, kind of close to our school. We had to go under a couple of fences to get to it. We would always have a great time. However, one evening in particular, this almost ended horribly. We're playing like normal when my brother suddenly gasps and stops. I hear a loud sound and something falls from a tree. He quickly jumps back and says we need to get out of here. I go up to him and I can see a 9-inch nail sticking through a piece of wood. I don't know how he done it, but my brother's tripped to booby trap into activating. Had he have been 1 second faster, it would have killed him instantly.